The throne room of Warlord Driven Koss smelled of iron, old victories, and the particular tension that fills a room when 40 armed warriors are collectively holding their breath. Vera stood in the center of it all and tried not to bounce on her heels. She was the third human diplomat sent to the Karate Dominion in 2 years. The first had fainted during the ceremonial weapons display. The second had insulted the warlord's lineage, accidentally, through a catastrophic mistranslation involving the word for ancestor and the word for livestock, and had been escorted out at spear point. Vera had been chosen because she had a gift for alien cultures, a near-supernatural calm under pressure, and, as her supervisor Rylan had put it while handing her the assignment, a completely unreasonable amount of enthusiasm for things that should terrify normal people. She preferred to think of it as perspective. The karate were large, bipedal, but broad, built like history's roughest drafts of what a dominant species should look like, with layered brow ridges, stone-gray skin, and hands sized for weapons that humans needed both arms to lift. They wore their scars openly, each one a cataloged story. Their language had 14 distinct tones for variants of the concept dominance, and no word whatsoever for negotiation. The closest equivalent translated roughly as the pause before the next battle. Vera found them fascinating. Warlord Driven Koss sat on a throne made from the weapons of defeated enemies, literally, physically constructed from them, fused and shaped into a seat of absolute authority. He was the largest karate she had seen in 3 months of cultural briefings and 2 days on planet. The scar that crossed his face from brow to jaw had its own small legend. His eyes were the flat, evaluating yellow of something that had never needed to look away first. He looked at Vera. Vera looked back. "Human," he said. His galactic comment was precise, deliberate, a conqueror's relationship with language. "You are smaller than the others." "The others were average," Vera said. "I'm compact, more efficient." Somewhere in the room, a warrior made a sound that might have been a suppressed noise of surprise. Driven's expression didn't change, but something behind his eyes shifted, recalibrating. "You will present your delegation's terms," he said. "I will. But first," she stopped, because something had moved behind the throne. Something small, small by karate standards, which meant roughly the size of a very ambitious Labrador, had emerged from the shadow of the great carved pillar and was now regarding Vera with enormous yellow eyes that had not yet finished deciding what they thought about the world. The Warlord's heir. She had read about Sarah Koss in the briefing files. 3 seasons old, which in human years translated to approximately 4. Daughter of Driven and his bonded partner, who had died in the Thresh campaign 2 seasons past. By karate law and tradition, the heir was present at all formal proceedings from the Age of Awareness, learning the weight of power by breathing the same air as it. Sarah was, objectively, the most intense small creature Vera had ever seen. She had her father's brow ridges, miniaturized, but already set in a permanent line of serious assessment. Her gray skin was slightly softer in tone, still holding some of the warmth of early youth. She wore a warrior's training braid despite being 3 seasons old, and she walked with the specific gravity of a child who had been told, repeatedly, that she carried a great name. She walked directly to Vera. The room tensed. 40 warriors leaned incrementally forward. Sarah stopped 18 inches away and stared up at Vera with those vast yellow eyes. Vera crouched down to her level. This was, apparently, not something that had happened before, because she heard the shift of weight across the whole room. The collective recalibration of 40 warriors whose threat assessments had not included the diplomat going down to the floor. Sarah stared at her. Vera smiled. "Hi." Sarah's nostrils flared. She was smelling her, reading her the way young karate learned the world, through scent cataloging, the briefing files had said, building a chemical map of everything they encountered. "You are strange," Sarah said. Her comment was careful, syllable by syllable, the way of a child who had learned it formally rather than grown up immersed in it. "Extremely," Vera agreed. "Your face is soft. Very soft. No bone ridges at all. It's a whole thing." Sarah reached out one hand. Thick fingers, blunt warrior's nails that would be formidable in 20 years, and pressed it against Vera's cheek. Testing. The way a child tests the temperature of something before committing. The room had stopped breathing. Vera held still. Sarah pressed harder. Then she pinched, very deliberately, and pulled. Hmm, she said, watching Vera's cheek return to shape with scientific interest. Elastic, Vera confirmed. Sarah's eyes narrowed. She leaned closer. Vera watched the decision form across that tiny, serious face with the clarity of a weather system developing. The assessment, the calculation, the conclusion. Then Sarah bit her. Not hard, not with intent. The way a very young karate tested the resistance and composition of an unfamiliar object. A quick, evaluating bite to the shoulder, jaw pressure enough to register, but well within the range of inquiry rather than aggression. The briefing files had mentioned this. In karate child development, biting was vocabulary. Vera looked at the small teeth marks on her sleeve. She looked at Sarah's expression, which had gone, for just a fraction of a second, uncertain, waiting for a reaction, waiting to learn what this strange soft creature would do. Ah, Vera said, in a tone of complete and genuine delight. Little teeth. And she booped Sarah on the nose. One fingertip, right on the tip of the small, serious, very dignified nose of the warlord's heir. The silence in the throne room achieved a new and profound quality. Sarah went completely still. Vera watched a series of experiences move across the child's face in rapid succession. Shock, outrage, confusion, and then something that the child clearly had no framework for whatsoever, because no one in her 3 seasons of life had ever booped the warlord's heir on the nose and called her teeth little in a voice that sounded like finding a wonderful surprise. Sarah looked at her father. Driven Koss, supreme warlord of the Karate Dominion, destroyer of the Thresh fleet, undefeated in 42 engagements, was looking at Vera with an expression she could not immediately classify. Sarah looked back at Vera. Then she made a sound. It came out of her like something she hadn't planned. A short, sharp sound, punched out by the collision of dignity and the completely absurd, and the warriors around the room heard it, and Vera saw several of them fighting their own faces with the desperation of people who understood very well what it would mean to laugh in this room. Sarah slapped her own hand over her mouth. Vera grinned. You laughed, she said softly. Sarah's eyes went wide with the specific horror of a small, dignified person caught in the act of being young. I did not, she said very carefully. It's okay. It happens to me too. Vera sat down, fully, cross-legged, on the floor of the throne room of the Karate Dominion, and looked up at Sarah from this new angle. Do you want to do it again? The nose boop. Scientifically. To see what happens. Sarah stared at her for a long moment. Then she sat down too. Behind her, Rylan, who had been standing at the back of the diplomatic party with his tablet and his careful neutrality and his absolute faith that Vera would do something unprecedented, slowly released the breath he had been holding since the biting incident. He made a small note. Heir engaged, threat level revised to 0. Reassess all protocols Karate children. The negotiations that followed were the most productive in 2 years of failed contact. They were conducted with Sarah sitting beside Vera, periodically testing the softness of her hair and accepting gentle nose boops with the increasingly relaxed composure of someone deciding that dignity could coexist with being found delightful. At the end, when terms had been set and the formal seals pressed and 40 warriors had rearranged their entire internal model of what a human diplomat looked like, Driven Koss said, quietly, not for the room. She has not sat beside anyone since her mother. Vera looked at Sarah, who had fallen asleep against her arm with the absolute trust of a child who had decided, conclusively, that this strange soft creature was safe. She's extraordinary, Vera said. She meant it completely. The warlord looked at his heir, at the particular softness that only appeared on the face of the most powerful being in 4 systems when he looked at this one small person. Yes, he said. She is. Outside, the twin suns of the karate homeworld were setting, painting the iron sky in shades that had no names in any human language. Vera committed them to memory anyway. Some things didn't need names. They just needed someone willing to sit on the floor and pay attention.